Welcome once again to Dad Jitsu. It's Christmas! 1st of December. This is actually the second time we've had a go at this one, isn't it?
So devastating to lose what was probably almost the whole episode.
Possibly the greatest conversation that anyone's ever had. It's just...
We're going to try and repeat the greatest conversation.
Yeah. Here we are on a Sunday...
anyone's ever had.
Yeah, on a Sunday morning, coming at you. This is our level of dedication. I feel like we need some sort of like award for that. Like, I'm not saying like an OBE or an MBE.
It's not going to come. It's not going to come from the wives.
No, no, that is for sure. Maybe the OBE will come.
Maybe we should give the award to the wives.
I think they probably deserve it more than we do. To be fair, our OBE will come after episode 20. I reckon they're probably formulating the letter now.
It'll be episode 21 where we're shooting into the top 1% stratosphere.
Yeah. It'll be delivered.
I think those guys need some sort of commendation.
Yes, 100%.
So the Christmas attire, this is restrained for me, to be fair. Like, usually the Christmas attire comes out halfway through November. But this is the first.
Loving that.
The Jedi Star Wars jumper. That was just to suck up to our coach, Colin, who was in Star Wars. So I was obviously after like a promotion at that point.
Yeah,
so.
or possibly just before.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I was after it. I was trying to get my promotion, so I thought I better do something to suck up to him.
Got to play the game.
You got to play the game, mate. You got to play the game. You got to chase those. That's what I always say to people: chase the promotion. Like there's nothing else that matters.
Constantly ask your coach why it hasn't happened yet.
That'll when really, you come in every session, just remind him.
That'll put you in good favour.
Next?
Yeah. Why haven't I been? Why has he been promoted and not me?
That's a great question.
That'll put you in good favour with your coach.
That's a great question. Yeah, that guy there who I smash every time. Yeah. Why is he a higher belt than me? Yeah. Surely I should get his belt.
What's wrong with your promotion strategy?
Yeah, if I built, what's wrong with your promotion strategy?
Yeah. I'm doing really well. So
there's clearly a problem. You need to readdress your systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like some help with that?
Yeah, I've got an idea.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I've only got 2 strikes on my white belt, but I know some shit now. So
I'm bringing experience from other areas of life. Yeah.
It's up to you whether you take it.
Yeah. So if that is ringing true with you, take that. We don't need any payment for any of that advice. Just take it, run with it, and let us know how you get on.
Yeah, please do.
Right, last week, well, it seems like last week. I mean, technically it is last week. On Friday, we were discussing some recent beef in the jiu-jitsu online world between Eugen O'Flanagan and
you're gonna get killed.
Greg Souders. Eugen O'Flanagan, master meme creator.
Indeed.
Child at heart, shit talker, good at jiu-jitsu, sure. That's a footnote. Greg Souders, protective father,
very
in jiu-jitsu at least, to the ecological method, and whilst very useful online, seemingly easily triggered when someone criticises it. Sorry, Greg. We wanted to just talk about the ecological method, sort of with our limited knowledge of it, and sort of discuss whether it's the be-all and end-all of training jiu-jitsu and teaching people jiu-jitsu, or whether it's a useful tool, and just sort of hash it out, really, because it's a topical subject.
New meta and all that.
Yeah. I'll try and explain what I think it is, but the ecological zealots, I hope I'm using that term correctly. Zealots?
Zealots, I think.
Zealots?
I think it's zealots.
What does that mean, really? That's like when someone is just do or die of something and just won't accept anything else.
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'm getting it right. They will probably pull apart my explanation, because it's probably wrong. But... well, I'll try my best. I'm not going to use any big words. I'm just going to try and explain it like a normal person. As far as I'm aware, the idea is that when you learn, or any movement is dictated by the environment that it is done in. So if I do a squat here in the garage, that might look slightly different to a squat at the gym, because the floor is a bit different and it's a bit cold, and the barbell's different and the weights are different. There's going to be some differences. So in a jiu-jitsu context, if I throw up a triangle from guard, that is going to be different to a triangle from half guard. That's an easy one because it's going to be taught in a different way because there's obvious differences in terms of position. But where it gets a little bit more interesting is two triangles from guard or a triangle from guard is never going to be the same as another triangle from guard, even if it's with the same person.
Yeah.
Because there's at a micro level there are going to be differences just in terms of the way the person who's being triangled holds themselves, or let's say it's in like the same sparring round, from the start of that round when we were dry and full of energy to the end of that round where we're sweaty and very tired and technique's getting a bit sloppy, those two triangles are going to be different.
Yeah.
So even though you think, well, actually every step I used was the same, there's going to be slight nuance to the way those steps were applied and done. So the idea is, if we just drill things in isolation following a sort of step-by-step approach of like, here's the 5 steps to how you do a triangle, that's not actually useful in terms of applying it in the real world. So what we want to do is kind of break jiu-jitsu down into all its like sort of most important component parts, if you like. You know, I mean, understanding it on like a deeper level, and I think the term that gets used is invariance. So these are things that never change. So if we look at a scenario in jiu-jitsu or grappling, let's say taking someone down, there are going to be certain invariants to what I have to do to get someone from standing to lying on their back. So there are going to be certain things that no matter how you do it, have to exist.
Yeah.
So I imagine, let's just off the top of my head, if someone's standing up to put them on their back, I'd probably have to like off balance them somehow.
Yep.
Like to get them to kind of fall over.
Control
if
the
they're
legs.
not wanting to. I could just say, lie on your back, and they lie down. I suppose I've used my voice to off balance them at that point, haven't I?
Same thing. Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
But I have to take them from standing to bottom, and I have to use my body in some way to do that. So off balancing might be invariant, but you know, if we talk about the triangle, a good example of the triangle might be that I have to get my arm and my legs around my partner's shoulder and neck, and then I have to keep them in my legs, their shoulder and neck in my legs, and then I have to, using my legs, apply pressure to the sides of the neck to get them to tap or go unconscious. So those 3 things might be invariants for like a triangle. But as I'm saying it, I'm aware that what I'm saying isn't very in line with ecological sort of training methods, because they don't really believe in like moves per se. So they wouldn't teach necessarily a triangle. If you were like a real zealot, you might not teach a triangle because you're like, well, that's a set move. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's sort of moving away from like the true meaning of ecological, which is just to teach all the foundation principles of what we're trying to achieve in the environment we're in, and then letting people work it out themselves. I suppose we need to define the environment. Like jiu-jitsu, I suppose, is taking someone from a standing position and maybe taking them down, but you don't necessarily need to take them down. But we're basically trying to control our partner with a view to breaking one of their limbs or breaking one of their joints, because I suppose you could break their back. Wouldn't be ideal in training. Or choking them unconscious. That is the goal, isn't it, really? We're trying to break joints and choke people unconscious. And we're going to need to get some control of our partner to do that. So that is really like if we really like boiled it down and we're like, yeah, but what, like say it's simpler. Like that's the simplest way of describing jiu-jitsu, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, so these ecological guys, are they just training that way with everything?
There are some people, so I believe Greg Souders and other schools around the world have taken this approach and are just training their students using an ecological approach. Because as far as I'm aware, if you're going to be like really signed up to that sort of methodology, you can't just use it as a tool, because it kind of, if you use other, so if you teach things, if you teach someone a move, or you show people kind of how to do things from your experience, then that's not ecological, because you're not creating an environment to allow them to work it out themselves.
Sounds a bit culty, doesn't it?
It's
the mindset. Like I like it. We've done this before, haven't we? You've run this quite a few times in classes. I really like it as a tool. But
just going to check this is recording.
Okay.
So after last time, like I literally am traumatized. Stand by.
There's probably going to be some periodic checking throughout,
Right,
isn't there?
it is. We're 10 minutes in and we're recording.
Sick.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I really feel like I get a lot from it when we train in that way. But I wonder whether it's because I'm at a certain level where I understand, the fundamentals, etc., etc., so that I can apply creativity to what I already know, because I already know the fundamentals. Because my problem with it being just something you do all the time is, you say you're trying to get the right grip for something, and you just leave people to find the right grip, and you say 5 years in or whatever, they're all going to eventually find a gable grip, an S grip, or whatever. But so say, for example, 5 years goes by, and for the 18 months, the last 18 months of it, they find that grip and they get it. They've only been using that grip for 18 months. Whereas if you're shown how to do it, not the correct way, that sounds a bit kind of like traditional martial arts, but what is believed to be the most effective way at that time, from the start, you've then got 5 years of muscle memory of that move. And I guess muscle memory is my issue with it. So if I use a musical analogy for me, if like the songs that I feel like it's easiest for me to perform at my best are the songs that I've played over and over and over for years, and it's just silky. It just there's no kind of give at all. Do you know what I mean? There's no friction. It just comes out of me. I worry that if you were just if you were just using the ecological ethos, whether you would miss out on all that muscle memory. Fair enough, you've come to that conclusion of the move, whatever it may be, yourself, and you found it, and you've kind of taught it to yourself in a way, in your own language, by finding it, using your creativity, but you still haven't got the same level of muscle memory of something that...
It's taking you longer to get there.
Yeah, so I do think it's a great tool, I really do. But I also think, like, I'm quite a creative person, so it works well with me, but not everyone's like that.
Yeah,
people like to just be shown something, do this. We've got some of the kids in our class. They just stand there, and you show them something. Okay, cool, and they just do it, and then they can just keep doing that move. They can still use creativity to offshoot from that when they've kind of got the fundamentals down. But I don't know. As an all or nothing, I just think it could be quite flawed in terms of that. In terms of just the skill acquisition and the muscle memory and getting the higher levels of a certain move and the nuances just down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand like the theory of it. I think there's a similar thing in like therapy, counselling.
Yeah.
Is that certain like psychodynamic counsellors, again I might get getting that term wrong, but I believe this is psychodynamic counsellors, I believe, will kind of use questioning and like motivational interviewing to kind of guide you towards the answers.
Yeah.
And you'll get the realizations yourself. The idea is that that's a more powerful realization than them just going, your fucking job's the wrong, like you need to quit your job, like that's the problem.
You
like,
just stop drinking or whatever.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, I don't need it. But then if they can realize it themselves, that's a really powerful thing. So I understand the concept, and I guess and I can see how that would be like right for jiu-jitsu as well. Like if someone can work something out themselves through like hours and hours of like grinding away, sparring, and then they work out this one grip that like really helps them get an armbar, and they're like, fuck, that's like working every time now. I can see how that would be really powerful. To your point, like that is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And that is what I found like teaching it, is I think potentially, I don't know, this could be really good in the future if I commit to it.
Yeah.
Do I want to like invest, say, 2 to 5 years to find out whether this is good on the back end? Or do I want to just show the class the things that I already know and utilize ecological, like, so constraints-based training, which I think is a really useful tool, whether or not that is ecological, that is used within the ecological method, but people may argue, and again, that's over my head, the sort of science of it, if you like. But I do utilise constraints-based training to set up live drills to really drill people into like where are the battles in what I'm showing you. So like in the Friday night class, we did some leg locks from saddle. So straight away, that's not an ecological class because we're teaching moves. Yeah. But we started it in the saddle. So again, it's not ecological because we've started in a move position, but whatever. And then we did some drills where the goal was one person just needs to keep hold of the leg, the other person needs to get their leg out. And then the next drill was that one person needs to keep hold of the leg, and then they try and keep hold of the foot and specifically the toes, and the other person just needs to get their leg out. So I was trying to show them that like using these constraint-based drills, these are like some of the main battles to getting good at leg locks. Is like if you can't control that limb and you can't control the hip and the knee line, like you're not going to get your leg locks. They're just going to pull the leg out and they're going to be free. And then once you've got that down, you're controlling the hip and the knee line really nicely. If you can't control the toes in some way, you're going to struggle to get into a finishing position. Yeah. And then I had this sort of quandary of like, do we then go on and do this kind of constraints-based drill where I say, right, try and get a finish now. I'm not going to show you what to do, but try and get a finish, controlling the toes. And what constitutes a finish? Well, we're trying to turn a joint beyond its passive range of motion. So either hyperextending it, rotating it. Now we're getting pretty like theoretical, aren't we? It's getting pretty like, you know, like a lot of concepts there. And so looking around, I'm like, the beginners, they might surprise you. Or they might just be like, I've got fucking no idea. Like, what do I do? The more advanced guys, they're just going for heel hooks, toe holds, and straight foot locks because they know that stuff. Aoki locks, like they're so blinded by their previous training. Most of them, not all, probably aren't going to be thinking, how else could I do this? Yeah, I just need to control the toes and sort of. Are there other ways that I haven't kind of tried that could I come up with something?
That's it.
So then I'm there like, how many times are we going to have to run this class? Because like I've watched a few videos with Greg and he sort of says like, look, that is fine. Like if the class looks messy and it looks like people aren't really like getting it right, like this is where all the like development's happening. Yeah. This is good. But I'm like, and I totally get that. But how many times am I going to have to run this class for someone to eventually
penny drop
get a submission? Like, so then there's that time investment. How willing are you as a coach to invest your time to allow the students to work it out themselves with the hope that this is going to create better jiu-jitsu guys at the end of it? But we don't actually know that yet.
No.
Because we haven't seen it at the highest level. There's only one guy. He qualified for ADCC. I think he was knocked out in the first round, but I'm not sure. So sorry if that's wrong. But he didn't win and he didn't medal. Yeah. Like, so, whereas like that's one example. And how many people did they have at ADCC?
And was he an ecological Was he training ecological from the start?
This is the thing. He wasn't. I believe, and again, I might get this wrong, that he's an AOJ black belt, but he didn't do very well competitively. Right. Then he went to Greg's, trained with him for however many years, I'm not sure, and now is doing better. But he's not like a day one. No, and this is product of this. So.
This is my point with it. I think you have to have a level of skill. Otherwise, it's just wide open, isn't it? And you'd have to be very, very patient as a coach to get there, which is obviously fine. That's totally possible. And also within a class of total newbies, you're going to have such a dynamic, such a range of just natural ability to get the skill. You know, you're going to get these kind of guys. We've got some kids in our class, right? That you just show them stuff and they can just do it. Yeah. It's you know, they just make sense to them. And there's some kids that really struggle. And obviously you get the same with the adults. I wonder whether, we've said this before, you know, kids seem to be a lot more intuitive on average than like adults. New kids are just trying jiu-jitsu quite quickly. You see them doing stuff that we haven't taught them. Little knee slides and little movements. They're just by osmosis, they're just picking it up. And that I think probably happens less with adults because we've got so much more stuff in our head: a job, tax, mortgage, blah 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 blah. It's for whatever reason it's harder to not as much neuroplasticity, I guess. It's
you're just fucking thick.
Yeah, you're fucking thick, mate. Or talk too much on, mate. And so you maybe newbie adults are where that process kind of dips. Maybe kids and adults that have got a level of skill already, because then when we've done them in the class, I've really, like I say, I've got a lot from it, because say we're in a triangle and you're just in like a loose triangle and you've got to try and hold that and they've got to try and get out, and that's it, and then so you already know what the moves are, the correct moves or the most effective moves, but you're able to be creative in that sense. What about this, what about that, what about that? I know I can do the right one, but you're able to be creative within that. But I just think you probably get the best results. I mean, maybe Greg can correct me if I'm wrong. You probably get the best results from people that already have a little bit of a grounding in the proper moves, for want of a better word.
But like I mentioned earlier, I think some people are coming in so set in their ways, unless so you're quite open to trying new things.
Hello, call me.
So you're like, yeah, let's try it out. Like, let's try out a different method and let's go with it. Some people aren't like that.
Yeah.
And I've done this in class and they're like looking at me just like, the fuck is this shit? And
that's
you
what
just
I mean.
see them doing the same, and they're not being creative, and you just think, okay, that's fine. So sometimes higher belts it's not going to work because they're just like, why are we doing this? Like, we just drill and then we spar. Like, what the fuck?
That's a good point.
Or like, but I know how to do a triangle.
Yeah.
Like, why do I need to think of different ways of doing it?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? And they don't need to. And they do know how to do a triangle, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, so, I don't know, man. Like, I really think as a tool it is useful.
Yeah.
And I know that goes against the idea that, so like, I don't know if I'm properly explaining this, but like, so an ecological session from a coaching perspective wouldn't have a massive amount of physical coaching.
Yeah.
Like, we would come in and it would mostly be live drills, sort of pseudo live drills, if you like, where two people are essentially sparring at, like, under sub threshold, if you like. But there's an argument to be made that, like, if you're sparring lightly, that is a different context to if you're sparring hard. So maybe you should be sparring hard in all of these drills.
Yeah.
Because
full resistance.
Because if the environment dictates the technique, then anyway. So everything would be sparring drills, but heavily constrained.
Yeah.
And that basically means, like some of the examples I gave earlier, maybe we'll be starting in my legs, a wrap round your shoulder and your head, and I'm on bottom, you're on top, and I've got to just keep your shoulder and your head in between my legs, like however I do that. And the other person just has to get their shoulder and their head out of the legs. So that would be, one where maybe the lesson is, in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to try and teach them a triangle. But I'm not going to call it a triangle. I'm just going to say, like, I'm just going to set up all these drills and they're just going to work it out themselves. And that would be one of the drills. The other one would be, I'm going to start on my back, you're, on your knees, and I've got my legs wrapped around you. So I'm not calling it full guard. I'm just explaining the position. And then I've got to get my head, both of my legs connected round your shoulder and your head.
Yeah.
And you've got to try and stop me doing that.
Yeah.
And then, we go from having the shoulder and legs wrapped around their head, shoulder and the legs the shoulder and the head in between the legs. And then I have to tighten up my legs so much that the other person taps.
Yeah.
So this is it. That, like, from a coaching perspective, it's quite challenging because you have to, like, you have to speak in a certain language.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you watch a lot of this ecological stuff and you see different people talking about it. There's a whole new sort of jiu-jitsu language being created, which again is problematic.
Yeah.
Potentially. And from a coaching perspective, you're like, fuck, I've got to, like, communicate in a completely different way now to sort of, like, try and get the best out of this. Otherwise, I'm kind of leading people too much. Like, again, that therapy sort of, like, metaphor or that simile, like, you don't want to lead people down the garden path. You want them to, like, ask little questions and then they lead themselves.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge. From a coaching perspective, that is a real challenge. And again, there's that, like, bit inside you that goes, like, I just want to fucking show you the move.
Yeah.
And then And so that's why I've started using it as a bit of a, and again, this isn't properly ecological, but a bit of a tool where like we'll set up certain drills and then I will show you stuff that works and we know it works. And then set up more drills so that you can really thrash it out and explain like it's going to be different. Like just you explain, people aren't idiots. Like be like, yeah, I'm going to show it to you like this, but the reality is inspiring. You're going to have, there's going to be these 2 or 3 battles. That's where this is going to be won or lost.
Yeah.
So let's set up some drills where we're going to practice what we do. And this might look different to how I showed it, but like, let's work out different ways of doing it. What works for you against that person? Like, do you need to grab your shin like this? Do you just do it like this? Do you grab the head? Like that might be different every time. But like these are the invariants. These are the things that you need. You need to make sure his posture is broken. You know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we could do that differently. You know, I'm just communicating that to people. Like, and maybe that's not going to be as great a learning experience as them just working that out themselves.
Yeah.
But it is. I do think that is going to get you there quicker.
Yeah.
And the proof's in the pudding. Like, look at the best guys in the world. Like, that is how they're training. They're using lots of different sort of styles: sparring, constrained sparring, positional sparring, which are different things. You know, a bit of drilling, a bit of like flow drilling, if you like it. Like that's what the 10th Planet guys kind of like doing. That lots of different things linked together. And, you know, there's so much value in all these different things.
Definitely.
Like, I'm yet to be convinced that like, and I've tried it a bit, that the ecological method is something that everyone should be like downing tools and being like, we need to start doing that.
Yeah. Or any like modality, is that the right word? Any kind of modality that you use, as you just said, you should be trying to use several different ways. You know, and also like the ecological way. If you are all in it, it's not going to be a one size fits all. You know, because there are those people that just want to be shown it, and they're like, right, cool, that's what I do, and I'm not going to deviate from that. I'm just going to get better at that thing and constantly kind of repeat it.
Yeah, different learning styles. Yeah, that's an important point. You know, that people respond differently to different ways of learning. Sometimes sometimes I'll give people like when we're doing something that isn't ecological and I'm teaching a move, I'll sort of teach it quite simply sometimes. Yeah, like 3 or 4 like things. Yeah. I think people are going to need more information than this, but I'm going to walk around and then I'm going to give people the information they need, because I know that people like kind of need it delivered in different ways.
That's the mark of a good coach, man. Like,
whereas if I give people like 10 cues, they're just going to forget half it anyway.
Yeah, or maybe 2 of them will remember loads of them. But like I get that with my music teaching. If I'm teaching a group, I'll teach it broad strokes first, and then the ones that you spot that are getting it quickly. It's like, right, and we get the same in the class with the kids. You spot one of the kids who just got it straight away. You're like, right, cool, I'll show you the next bit. Whereas these guys and these guys and these guys, they're still struggling with the first bit, so I'll leave them, you know. It sounds like we're shitting on it. I don't think we are. I really like it as a tool. I really do. I genuinely do. I think it's brilliant. And it's if you are someone that likes to employ creativity in your jiu-jitsu, it's brilliant. I think even experienced guys, it helps to kind of expose little holes in your game, little holes in your whatever, a loose triangle, whatever. Those micro battles that you know, that term you use, it helps you to tighten all those up, because you're not thinking about the chaos of everything that's going on, all the options. I think it works for me because I've got ADHD, so especially when I first started jiu-jitsu, I just got blinded by all of it, if you know what I mean. It's kind of hard to describe it. Whereas if you do have these, like, well, you just got to do, you know, or they're not even saying that, are they? It's just, this is the position, these are the invariants, you got to hold this, you got to do this, you got to be, and everything else, you just figure it out. That kind of, I understand that, and I do see the value in that. But I just think, using that all the time, I would also like to be shown this is the best way we've found so far. I mean, jiu-jitsu is exploding, isn't it? And it's constantly evolving. One of the real benefits, I think, that can come from it is because you are in that creative mindset, it's going to birth new moves, and potentially someone comes up with a new thing of like, oh, we do this, it's more effective, or this, you add that to it, and you can move someone a bit better. And I think, you know, the constant evolution of jiu-jitsu, it is probably aiding that. You know.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, I think you're right. We'll do. We won't get so bogged down with like these are the way that you have to do things. Like it's always good to like try different things, isn't it? And sort of think I think the main argument for it, and I've seen people sort of like putting posts up online saying like, God, like half of the black belts I've ever rolled with like don't even know what they're doing, and I'm like, well, that, and I know what they mean by that. They're basically saying like they don't understand. Let's say, to use triangle analogy, they don't understand like the most important elements of what they're trying to do in a triangle.
Yeah,
like they know all the moves, but if you said like what are the three most important parts of the triangle, like they don't really understand, or they couldn't say it anyway. They do understand because they can do it,
yeah,
but they're just not able to like recite it, if you like.
yeah.
So I get that, but it's that's not right, because they do know what they're doing, but they're just not talking in the same language as you.
Yeah.
You know. However, I think reflecting on jiu-jitsu and thinking about all the battles, the guard passing, the control, the this, the that, and thinking what are the most important elements of what I'm trying to do here. Like, what are they? And really like thinking about it on a deeper level and trying to pull it apart down to its bare bones and think, what am I actually trying to do here?
Yeah.
That does deepen your understanding of what's happening, and you're not getting so like, some people are very, and I've seen people teaching, they're very caught up in all the moves.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
right, I'm going to teach this move. It's got 8 steps.
Yeah, yeah.
All of the steps have to be done precisely, and I'm like, that's bullshit.
It is, yeah.
Like,
it's very rigid, isn't
and
it?
someone will be like, oh, what was that bit? No, you have to get an underhook here. You have to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but why are we getting an underhook? What is that underhook doing?
Yeah.
That underhook, so it might be pinning that far shoulder. Well, you don't need an underhook, do you? You could just put your forearm in their shoulder and just sort of push it down. You could get a C grip there.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's thinking, why are we getting that? Like, this is the deeper understanding bit, which I do think is really useful.
Yeah.
Is thinking every move that I've just been shown, what is the purpose of that move? And is there another alternative?
Yeah.
There probably is.
Yeah, definitely. And that,
So then you're getting a deeper understanding of jiu-jitsu, like, and you can set up like your drills and things like that, and just like, so I love that bit of it. I do love that bit of it. But I think it's like a bit like sort of arrogant to be like, oh yeah, I've rolled with all these people and they don't even understand jiu-jitsu. It's like, they fucking do understand it, but like they're just not thinking about it in the same way. Like,
it's the whole nature of the rigid nature of like, well, this is the only way. If you do it, you do it. You do this and nothing else. It's quite culty.
I tell you what it is. It's interesting. So I come from like a strength and conditioning background, and there's a big like, and this is probably now like sort of filtering out into like every walk of life, but certainly in like the personal training game, nutrition, strength and conditioning, all these things, there's like the evidence-based crowd, and then there's like the sort of non-evidence-based crowd, if you like. And they don't like each other.
Yeah. Do you mean like bro stuff?
Yeah, like you got your like Eddie Abu, you know that guy?
Yeah,
like, just fucking, it's fucking bullshit. Put your fucking Gregs down, it's fucking killing you, like that guy. Eat eggs.
Take your shirt off.
Yeah, like that guy.
He sounds like a lot of fun.
He's a great guy. And then there's a guy called Dr. I think his name is Gary McGowan. Really great. He does great content, like triage method, I think is things called. Like, and it's all like, he's a doctor, proper doctor, like, not just like
Dr.
someone
Phil.
who's achieved a doctorate. He is actually a doctor, and he's like a nutritionist and a personal trainer. He does jiu-jitsu as well. Might be listening today, who knows? But he's like been going at Eddie Abu, being like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
Like, everything he's saying is just not science-based, not evidence-based. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
So I love evidence-based stuff, and I think it's really important to like understand things that in the science it shows that they do actually work and what we're saying is right. However, there is always this sort of like, there's always people that are like at the cutting edge, and the science just hasn't backed what they're saying yet. And maybe in 10 years' time, they will be, what they were saying is science-based because the research is there, and it's like, oh yeah, what you were saying was actually true. However, so anyway, like so it's the science and anti-science bit. Now it seems like in the jiu-jitsu, like this ecological method is like that same crowd, because there's a lot of like papers and research papers and things done on using this method and how it can be like a better way of teaching and all this sort of stuff. And so the people promoting it are all like, oh, you got to read the literature, like the literature says this, literature says that. And like that's never really happened in jiu-jitsu before, because like there's no literature about the best ways to teach jiu-jitsu. It's just like, well, this has been passed down for decades, and this is how people do things. Some people do it like, some people do it like, some schools do this, and some schools, you know, and people just sort of work out what happens just through trial of, you know, fire, you know, just doing stuff in the trenches, if you like. Whereas now this has come in, it's like, oh yeah, but the paper says this, the paper says that, and it's like,
okay,
but like, that doesn't necessarily mean it is the best way, just because a paper says looking at teaching handball and how it worked and it was useful in this specific, constructed like research study.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily correlate out to what's the best way to teach jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and to go back to your strength and conditioning analogy, so you say there's always guys at the cutting edge, sure, but like the science hasn't backed it up yet, so it's a roll of the dice whether it works. How many of the guys that are like seemingly at the cutting edge of a thing, how many of those camps turn out to be bullshit?
Oh yeah, probably a lot.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a tricky one to sort of when you're putting it up against hard evidence of this definitely works.
Yeah, but the thing I also think some things are just really hard to prove.
Yeah,
some things would require such difficult studies to set up and you're never really going to be able to prove it. Bodybuilders will say that this exercise builds the chest better than that one. I mean, you can look at things and look at muscle size and look at EMGs, like how much muscle activity we're getting and stuff. You can get a pretty good study, but if all these bodybuilders who have been building their bodies for years are saying it, but science is saying, but that might not actually be true. But it's so hard to study because there's so many variables. There's so many things in each case that might change. Genetics, all these other aspects that are basically impossible to factor in.
Yeah, totally.
It's difficult, isn't it? And I think jiu-jitsu is going to be very hard to really scientifically determine what is the best way to spend your time coaching people. Yeah. That's probably impossible to prove.
It is, I think.
Unless you just you did a study of all the people that win worlds.
Yeah.
But then there's a genetic factor, there's how long you've been training, there's all these other factors. Yeah. But if you really did for 10 years, you spoke to all the coaches of everyone that won worlds or ADCC and looked at their training camp leading up to that. And you could really harvest, every one of them spar. We know that's important. They're all doing positional sparring. Okay, that's going to be important. They're all doing fucking shrimping in the warm-up, maybe that's important. Do you know what I mean? You pull it all in and see and massive graph and think, we're seeing certain commonalities are coming out. We know we have to include those because every champion is doing those same things. That could be interesting, but that's a massive study. And again, there's still going to be people that say, but it's a shit study because of this, that, and the other. And they're right.
It's very, it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Like I said just now, I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all way of coaching. It's being having a sensitivity to your students and varying your teaching methods. If you do spot some people who are more creative and more potentially able to take on and use the ecological way, then maybe try and teach them that way, or maybe try and get them in a little group, teach them that way. But then the guys that just want to be taught the move and learn the move and just repeat it, then they need to go in a different group. Which is a huge dynamic for a coach, but then that's coaching lots of people, isn't it? You're dealing with a huge dynamic and lots of needs, lots of varying needs, I just think purely just doing one way in any way, you're gonna have people fall off, aren't you? You're gonna have people that are just not gonna get it or not gonna really respond to it. But they're two very extremes, aren't they? That's going to be potentially a hard one to do within one class. Maybe you could run a class that is more ecological than run a class that's a bit more just traditional.
You could do that throughout the training week, couldn't you? That'd be interesting to have
see who responds to it.
You'd say you've got 6 classes a week. You could do 4 classes where you're teaching moves. Maybe you have a theme, half guard, whatever. And you teach those moves, and then you have 2 classes that are just strictly kind of ecological, and you're building up the drills throughout the class to sort of teach whatever it is that you're sort of hoping to get out there. That'd be interesting. Interesting. I found it really useful with the kids. I found it really useful from standing. Like that, I really get on with it, and it feels like the lesson doesn't feel like too much of a chore. It feels like things flow nicely and it makes sense, and it's with the kids it works pretty well. Leg locks, I'm not enjoying it.
Right.
I'm not enjoying it with leg locks at all.
Like they're too complex for people to figure out?
I just feel like we know there's a fucking shitload of stuff that works really well. And it annoys me that I'm not allowed to tell them what that is.
Yeah.
And they have to kind of work it out.
But it's so complex and nuanced. I mean, leg locks, you know, as we know, it could be its own sport, couldn't
There's
it?
lots of
It's
fine
so much
little details.
Yeah.
Like
How
the
long's that gonna
difference
take?
between getting a good bite on the heel with like the blade of your forearm or like getting it in the crook of your elbow.
yeah.
How many fucking goes is that going to take you to work that out?
Honestly.
Like,
yeah.
like how many goes really? Like to like get that elbow back, control the toe, squeeze. Oh, it pops into the right. Maybe it takes 2 goes. Maybe in one session you work it out. You're like, oh yeah, I was getting it there, but I worked out if I could do this. And that would be that sort of that person who's just really like, they're probably like a scientist or an engineer.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's not. Yeah, but if I just adjust it like this,
Yeah.
But then you've got like that person who fucking, you know, works in a sales call center. Like they ain't getting that.
They're just not
Sorry,
wired that way.
sales call center people. I'm sure you're very intelligent, but and I'm not saying you're not intelligent. I'm just saying people's brains work in different ways.
Definitely.
I'm not like the engineer type.
No, neither am I.
Like I'll just be like, oh, this fucking shit just doesn't work. Like, and then someone like Will will come like, yeah, but if you just adjusted the parameters or something,
That's
oh,
right.
oh, now that's
There you
working.
go,
Okay,
yeah,
thanks,
yeah.
Will. Like, so you see this in different people when you coach. Certain people are just so good at like just making adjustments and thinking about things, stepping outside, looking back in, and being, yeah, but if we change it like that,
Yeah.
I don't work like that very well.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be taught things.
Right.
And then I want to drill them out and work them out and thrash them out and work out how it works in live.
Yeah.
Like that's really important.
Yeah.
But I do want to be taught things as well.
Yeah.
Like, I want someone who knows how to do something really well to go like, this is how you do it.
This is how I do it, and it works. Yeah, and I don't know. I think I'm more like I've said a few times now. I like the concept of it. I've said for years. I'm like, hey, you checking? Your neurosis is kicking in again. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
I like the I call them zoom out sort of concepts where you like what's important about this and what are the broad strokes that I can just have in my head in the chaos of a role. You know, I just need to grab here. I just need to you know the fundamental you know zoom out concepts or you know the invariants as he calls them. I've been searching for that my whole jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's a useful thing to think about, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that I really think is great, and it's a really good for me. You know, I'm always searching for that in a given position or a move or a sequence or whatever. I'm looking for the things that are really the most important thing, and then I'll try and fill the gaps in with all the other bits. Because all the other bits you can, as you said, they're all variable, aren't they? Depending on your position, the body type of the guy or girl that you're rolling with. Is that the right word? They, them, I don't know. The person that you're rolling with.
Shim.
Yeah, I don't think that's the one. Maybe that's where we're going.
Maybe you're part of the problem, mate.
Maybe I am. I'm confused. Don't cancel me.
Yeah, I think the other thing so to go back to like what we originally talked about, and that was the beef online. I just think adults shouldn't be getting in beef online with each other.
No, it's a bit childish, isn't it?
Just maybe do it in your DMs.
Yeah.
But it's difficult, isn't it? Like,
I guess if you're trying to sell something, though, if you're trying to sell an idea, you want to be seen to be defending it.
yeah, I mean, I guess Jesus would have stood up for what he believed in, wouldn't he?
You fucking hope so.
Father Christmas would argue that Christmas is important.
Yeah. Fucking, I saw a really funny Christmas movie last night. Have you seen Violent Night?
No, I've seen there's been a few that have come out like horror Christmas things.
It's not horror. It's I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fucking brilliant. It's basically Die Hard, but Santa is Bruce Willis, and it's like, and he just goes on this rampage and just kills all these henchmen. It's fucking really gory.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really. I really recommend it. It's very funny.
Yeah, I have to try and watch that. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I love watching online beef, but I just think,
It's passion, isn't it? That's where it comes from.
it is passion. So fair enough. Like, be passionate. And I think American people express their passion sort of a lot more willingly than English people. Sort of.
We're a bit more reserved.
And sort of just think,
It's a funny old society over here, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a comedian talking about that, but like I love the really accepting nature of over in the States compared to over here. There was a comedian talking about this is the only country where if you see someone smiling for seemingly no reason over the other side of the street, you're like, fuck's up with him?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with him? Like, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just smiling. Probably on a good day.
I remember nearly getting in a fight outside a nightclub.
Right.
Just for looking for looking at someone.
Right, brilliant.
And these kids were there. What the fuck are you looking at? I was just like, no, I'm not looking at you.
Yeah.
I was just looking like in your general direction, but I wasn't actually like looking at you. I was sort of looking through you, if you like.
Yeah,
they couldn't understand that concept.
Brilliant.
There was no, you fucking staring at me. No.
Yeah.
I know it looked like I was looking at you. But actually, like, you're there, and I'm just sort of wistfully gazing into the sort of the distance over your head.
Just so you know, I'm high as fuck right now. I didn't even know you were there. You scared the shit out of me when you walked towards me.
Yeah, I was just like, and he was like, no, come around the corner so we're not under the cameras and we'll fucking go. And I'm like,
Oh, what?
I don't know how to explain this.
You're not as important as you think you are.
I'm just waiting for someone.
You were just part of a background I was looking at. Sorry, you're not the centre of the universe, mate.
I was more interested in the lamppost over your head.
The haze it was creating.
Anyway, I reckon we've got a good amount of time done there. We've probably just confused you even more. I remember when I first started looking up about the ecological method, people would be talking about it, and I'm just got like, it was just no idea what they're talking about. So hopefully we did an okay job. It's probably a very ADHD job of explaining what it is.
Sorry.
Again, if you're a proper ecological person, I'm sorry, we've probably fucked up.
But I'm willing to go and look at literature and learn more, and maybe we're talking about our arse.
It's really interesting. When I first started reading about it and watching videos about it, I was really interested in it, and I was like, I want to go and apply this. I want to go and try this out and sort of thrash it out and sort of really get into it. I could see that it was well thought out and interesting, and it made sense. Yeah. So yeah, go away. If you're a coach or you're interested in training methods, go and look it up and see what you think. I know there's a few people that I know, a Brotherhood jiu-jitsu coach up in, and an S&C coach up in somewhere up north. He is utilising it and has been for a couple of years, I think.
Right.
Hasn't taught a move for a few years, and so that's really great, isn't it?
I'd love to see that data though.
Yeah.
How there was the hit results,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just evidence of this sport, this art that we love. It just continues to evolve, doesn't it?
That's one of the best values about jiu-jitsu, I think, is constant evolution.
Yep.
It's not just being well, this is how we do it and that's it. Yeah. But it's saying no, if there's a better way, we should be seeking that out and doing it. And I think that's why jiu-jitsu has kind of risen to the forefront of grappling arts and martial arts, probably really. Yeah. Because it's so open to just taking everything in that's good and just applying it and development. I think that's a big value in the jiu-jitsu community, isn't it?
Definitely. I think as a practitioner you should always be open to that, to new meta.
Definitely.
It's very important.
Definitely. Right. Well, we didn't answer any of your questions this week.
Do we actually get any? Oh, we got some.
No, we have got quite a few actually.
Oh yeah.
So we'll answer them next week.
Yeah.
We're going to get a backlog of questions going. That's good.
It's always good.
Yeah, comment, share, subscribe, press the bell thing. Don't know where it is.
Is it down there, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
We should get a bell, shouldn't we? Like a proper...
That'd be good. Yeah. And just do all those things and, just send us money.
Send us money. We keep asking for it. It hasn't arrived yet.
No. Or, I'll send you my address and I'll send you the time that we are recording, and if you could send us food,
hello,
that would be amazing. It's we're trapped.
Yeah, we're trapped here, freezing our tits off.
Please send us food.
Yeah, we're in a prison. Yeah, it'd be the most complicated form of Uber Eats, wouldn't it?
But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. We'll answer your questions next week. See you next time.
Nice one, guys.